Hello, welcome to another episode of Aaron Plays. This is scenario 8 from Storming the Gap, Metal Rains. I'm playing the Soviets against the West Germans, who are played by the AI deck from the Solo Assistant. So, as the Soviets, I have to take Objective A and Objective B, which are in these hexes here. So Objective A actually is both of those town hexes. I have 6 platoons of infantry, 6 platoons of motorized transport that can carry the infantry, and 2 very old, cranky T-62 tanks that are well outclassed by what the West Germans have got in the form of a Leopard 2. However, my approach is relatively clear of enemy. This hill blocking most of their lines of sight, though there is a danger from this unit over here, which is armed with a Milan anti-tank guided missile. It has a range on the counter of 744, which means its effective range is 7 hexes, but it could fire out to 14 hexes range. The little grey triangle on it means it's not useful for close range fire. So that could be an advantage at a later stage, but I've got to get there first. So that unit, I can check roughly what it can see from where its location. If I click line of sight button at the top there, it can see through there. It crops that hill hex in there, but I don't think that's blocked because it's not beyond that white line, which is the hill. So I will check that rule shortly. I can also check other lines of sight from there. Through here, I could be seen. Probably here, I can be seen. So I'd have to be careful. It'd be a long-range shot for the weapon. It can fire out to 14 hexes, and that would be a danger to every vehicle I've got. So the question is, do I keep all my weight down this side of the board, or do I actually throw some over to the top here? I have only 8 turns, so I can't hang around. I will be starting with my infantry mounted in the BP1s to get the maximum movement out of them. So do I send 3 platoons to try and take this location and 3 platoons to this one, or do I throw all the weight at this and then break this defense at the Objective A defense and then move on to Objective B? Split my forces or keep them concentrated is the options. I have got some off-board artillery, however, it's not available until turn 2. The Germans have some off-board artillery as well, again, not available until turn 2. I do have an initiative phase, which is effectively I get 1 free turn before the game begins, moving onto the board, and I will be taking advantage of that shortly. So let's actually do that now. Okay, so each one of these units here, I'm going to mount up with an infantry unit. Let's start with 1 down the bottom here. So they've got 6 movement points. Moving through clear costs 1. These half hexes do cost, so that will cost them 1, 2. Now this cultivated ground costs 2 movement points per hex for vehicles. So that's 2 so far. So moving into there would actually be now 4, 6. So that will conclude his movement. Okay. I will now bring another one on. check it. There are no ways. So there's hills in the way. So there's no reaction from the Germans at this stage because they can't see anyone. If they could, I would then draw a card from the deck that I have to see if they actually do react to what I'm moving. But they can't react if they can't see me. So moving into here with another one of these BPPs, PMPs, BPPs, BMPs, that'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I'm going to check the line of sight. Okay, so there is a potential that that unit can see me at that point at a range of 10. So I'm going to pause the video and actually see if they can shoot there. Okay, I have just checked into the rules. This system uses whole hex line of sight blocking. Some game systems use that the actual symbols that are printed on the map will block line of sight rather than the whole hex. This system uses the whole hex. So 09, even though it doesn't cross the little crest line that's shown in the hex, does actually block the whole hex. Does block line of sight. So the unit cannot see me in that hex there. So I'll remove that line of sight check. So far I've spent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I will move 1 hex further because it has 6 movement points. So that's 6 to there. Now I'll check the line of sight again. And again, it still just clips that hex side. So it's still blocked. He cannot see me at present. Probably if I moved into R9, in the next turn, he probably will be able to see me. So keeping that in mind. The cultivated hex here doesn't block line of sight. It's classed as an obstruction. If there are 2 obstructions in the way, then it would be blocked. So if there was a cultivated hex in L7 as well, then the line of sight would be blocked at L7. Okay. And many of these tactical games do have different ways of doing lines of sight, and I need to verify that. So that completes that unit movement. Moving on to the next one, and again, moving in with its BMP. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Towns cost 1. So that's 5 into there. Okay. Continue. Now, I can have multiple units stacked in a hex. The maximum stacking limit in this is 2 units. So when an infantry is aboard its vehicle, that's classed as 1 unit for stacking purposes. So let's move another one into there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we will have another one come on here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we will have the final one joining that other, and we will put the HQ with that unit. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to move it to there for 5. I will then bring the tanks on. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Should I move it further? I don't really want to be exposing them to, definitely not to the leopard. So let's move it into here. No, that will also expose it to the Milan. So we'll leave it there for 3 for the moment, time being, and we will move the other tank with it, keeping them together. Okay, just clear up those movement trails. So that would conclude the initiative phase of the turn before the actual first turn begins. So I will now begin the first turn. And in that, I'll just pause now, make sure I don't forget any of the sequence of play. Okay, so the sequence of play, we have an operations step, and a marker removal step, and then we have the final victory determination step. In the operations step, the first thing we do is we draw a card to see which formation or what activity occurs. So going to here, I will draw a card. That tells me there's an end of operation. If two of these come out, the actual turn will end. So the next card drawn. Okay, so the 213th Panzer Grenadiers will now activate. So at that point, I need to start working out what these forces are going to do. I will have this deck of cards, which is the AI deck, and I draw one card for each stack of enemy and see what they're up to. Now, at present, as we know, none of my Soviet forces are in line of sight. So whatever they do will depend on what card they draw, and the information on the card will determine if they have units in sight, like what they do if they had enemy in line of sight, and what they do if they don't. So I'm going to start with, I could start with any of these. That's my choice, but I would tend to try and see what happens with units that are closest to the enemy. So this infantry unit here, I'll draw a card for it, and it tells me disrupted AEO, so that's enemy closest. Well, there's nothing disrupted in the enemy. And it says if in 0 dB, so if it was in no defensive terrain, it would move. Otherwise, it just says highest firepower, closest, no, it would fire if it had anyone that it could see, which it doesn't. And it says execute victory conditions, which would basically mean it will stay in the victory location. If it wasn't in a victory location, it would then move to do so, to be in there. Okay, so if it was starting in this hex, it would now move into the town because that's a victory location. So it will basically, more effectively, pass. This unit here, I draw a card for it, and it says fire again if there's anyone to fire at. Move off board units onto the map. It was an off board unit move, or move towards the victory location again. So again, try to defend. It's a pass, which I suspect most of these guys would do because they've got nothing. Their job is to defend. Okay, this unit here is telling me again fire if it had someone to fire at. If it was in non-defensive terrain, it would move to a target which is in defensive terrain. And what I'm doing here, there are multiple options on this card. I use it as a programmed instruction, like a flow chart. I move down to see if there's any of these that it can obey. And at the present moment, it's telling me to move towards terrain cover. It's already in terrain cover. And again, execute a victory condition, which in this case would be hold on to the terrain. We are doing defensive posture. Yeah, if it's in cover, it will stay where it is. So again, they're not doing anything untoward. Right, the Leopard 2. Okay, again, if it had someone to fire at, it would fire. It's not disrupted. Highest firepower, furthest from a player's unit, will fire, execute victory conditions. Now, It's not an victory location. So execute victory conditions. There is a little chart that I have, which you can't see because of the way. Yeah, there we go. There are my hands here, which is the solo assistance behavior table, which I now consult. So I see along here there's a chart which is defensive posture and offensive posture. We know they're in defensive posture. So if it wasn't on the map, it would move on the map. It says AEO within line of sight of most units, move and fire. Okay. So it's not necessarily, though we're trying for this unit, this is telling me enemy within line of sight of most units. Well, there's none of my units, none of the German units within line of sight, so that one doesn't apply. AEO. Now, AEO stands for some enemy operation, AI enemy operation. More than point blank range in hex away from the enemy unit, move towards VO hex. More than point blank range, no, doesn't apply. AEO closest to a friendly unit that fired and fire move towards. None of my player units have fired. AEO passes if all player units in line of sight are ops complete. Not in line of sight. Closest to player unit fire at any long range. Again, none of those apply. So it looks like they are being on the defensive. The last unit is that Marder 1 at the back. Highest firepower. No, fire. A is closest to unit as elected. No, and again. So they're staying. So I went through 5 cards of the enemy there, and nothing happened. Though there could have been one that did move them towards the enemy. In this case, nothing actually happened. So on that card, so they're all ready to still defend, ready to react as and when necessary. So I will now draw next card from the formation deck. Electronic warfare. Okay, so this card now will be jamming of either one side or the other. So let's see who it affects. So I'm going to pause again to refer to the rules at this point. So pause. Okay, I'll refer to the rules. So when that card is drawn, the electronic warfare card, a die is rolled to determine which side is affected by the electronic warfare. 1 to 3, NATO may play the card. 4 to 6, the Warsaw Pact. It also gives a modifier if one side or the other has an electronic warfare advantage. However, this scenario hasn't specified that, so it's straight die roll. However, it's a bit strange considering the actual notes of the scenario mentioned that the Soviets were seriously jamming this area, but it hasn't given it in the scenario note. So 1 to 3, the NATO get to play this, and 4 to 6, I'll get to play it. I get to play it. So what the effect is, I get to place the electronic warfare marker on top of the HQ of the NATO forces. Let me just find that marker. Okay, it's the electronic warfare. There it is. I stick it on top of the HQ there. The effect of that is that when their formation card's drawn again, they will have to roll for command. Remember, if I said at the beginning, they're all in command if they are within, well, I said in the previous video, not in this video, the command range of this HQ is 5 hexes. Okay, so anyone within 5 hexes, and they can operate freely. However, their HQ is now being jammed, so they would actually have to make command rolls to activate. They didn't have to do that in the previous cards, but if their card comes out again in this turn, then they'll have to check to see if they can actually do what the AI wants them to do. All right, so that's that card. Drawing the next card. It is the Panzer Grenadiers again. So going through the sequence of play for them, so it's that their formation's now activated. There are various steps that you go through each time you're activated or formation's activated. The first step is to see if the refresh step, if they had any operations completed markers on them, they would be removed. You then have the command and leader status step to see if they can obey what they've been asked to do. So looking at the back at this card, it shows 3 numbers on it. That number there, the 7, is the morale. So the higher the number, the better, because effectively they need to make a roll equal to or less than that number on 2 dice to see if they can actually be and do what the AI wants them to do. This number is the command rating when the HQ is at full strength. This number here is when it's reduced. Well, it's not a reduced HQ at the moment. So we're looking at command range of 5, but because they're being jammed by the electronic warfare from the previous card, they have to make the rolls equal to or less than 7 to be able to do anything. So I will start with this unit here. I roll 2 dice for it. Rolled a 5, he's fine. Then I roll for the Marder. He's rolled a 9, so he is out of command control. So I will get the marker for that. Okay. Admin markers, out of command. So at the present moment, he's not receiving any signal from the HQ to do anything at the moment, whereas this guy in the buildings is. All right. This unit here, roll for him. They're fine. The Marder at the back, they're fine. And the unit actually stacked with the HQ, they're still okay. Right, because they can virtually shout at the unit rather than just rely on the radio. Okay, so 1 unit was placed out of command. Now we go through the procedure again to see. So after command and leadership status is disruption. Well, no one's disrupted as yet. There's no off-board artillery yet because it's right until turn 2. And actions by active units all stacked. So now we go to see if any of these units actually do anything. So this will be testing for this stack here. Okay, and again, fire, no, no, no. Highest firepower, AEO closest to victory objective, mark ops complete. So he's obviously doing something in there. We're not sure what, but he's been marked ops complete. He's not available to defensive fire, which hopefully if I can get the card going, that'll be quite useful. This stack here, the out command, does nothing. He could still opportunity fire if I do something. In other words, he can self-preserve, but he can't actively do anything. This unit over here. Okay. So AE closest to a unit that just acted. No. AEO closest to the lowest firepower unit. Fire, no. Again, can't see anyone. AEO closest to a unit in 0 dB. No. 0 dB is 0 defense bonus. Hex or victory, move towards. No, none of those apply. Okay, so again, he's just sitting there waiting for my guys to do something that you can see. And the the leopard with the HQ. Okay, he's not disrupted. Not disrupted. AO closest to a target, move towards. Now, closest to a target. AEO closest to a target, move towards. Okay, so I'm just going to have to check the definition of, does it have to be a visible target? So let's just pause there. Okay, so I've read the definitions. So it says AEO. Now, I've read that actually stands for Artificial Enemy Opposition. closest to target, move toward. The target can be in any one of my units or a victory location. So we're testing for this Leopard 2 in here, and it's closest to this objective. That's 1, 2 hexes away, 3. This is 1, 2, 3 as well. So it can't cross the river. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4. So it will move towards, didn't say move into. So I'm going to move them 1, 2, 3. Now, if you look at, again, look at this Leopard, it has got advanced optics for the shooting, moving and firing. That's what the orange 4 on the AP firepower. The AP firepower being the 1443. Okay, it's moved 3 movement points, which is just over half its movement capability. So it might be able to get a shot off if it's got someone in line of sight. So let's have a look at line of sight. Okay, can't see my T-62s because of the town hex in T8. Again, even though it goes over the river and there's no actual physical building, it's the whole hex that blocks. Can't see anything else from there. Goes over the hill to there. So none of mine are in line of sight, so it actually has no target at this point. But it has brought it closer and is protecting that gap between the hill and the river. So that's something for me to consider if I actually do get an activation this turn. Okay, so, and then testing for the last unit on the German side, that Marder at the back. Okay, AE closest to a target, least resistant move towards. So again, LRM stands for least resistant movement. So it's going to try and move without exposing itself. And again, we know this area is sort of blocking line of sight. So he's moving towards that village to protect it. So it'll be 1, 2 to there. It doesn't say move, it says move towards, does not say enter. He could move into I6, but then he'd be completely blocking. So maybe as a judgment call, would he block his line of sight, or do you want to be able to fire on this hill or be blocking the building there? I'm going to take it, he moves to I7 and he's moved towards. So that's them done on that card. Okay. So they would be marked ops complete. So they can't do anything else for this turn. So if I move in their line of sight, because they're ops complete, they can't actually defensive fire or reaction fire. So this infantry here with the Milan is able to reaction fire, and so is the out command unit. Okay, if I get an activation. So what is the next card for this turn? Battlefield event and friction. That is a random event. So I'll pause that while I get the random event table, which I didn't bring to this sitting. It's still sitting in the box. So let me go and just pause this recording. Okay, I rescued the battlefield events table and the battlefield friction table from a box. So I'll make a die roll and then we'll see. There's lots of options on here. Let's see, it's rolling 2d6 and see what the result is. So that's a 5. So on the 5, this one is called Cautious Approach. Okay, I'm going to have to change glasses here. I have 1 pair of glasses for the screen and 1 pair of glasses for reading. Right, one side. So I need to find out which side is affected. 1 to 3, it's NATO. 4 to 6, it's Warsaw Pact. It affects me. So your troops exhibit caution as they approach the objective. Activate 1 friendly formation for a modified formation impulse. When actions occur in the impulse sequence, units of your activated formation may only execute move or move and fire actions. However, they may only use up to half of their movement points. To be clear, they may still move and fire, as they'll be using no more than half their movement points. Your units are subject to enemy opportunity fire as normal when moving. Okay, so that's a little bonus for me. Around the battlefield friction there. I'm getting an activation, and I can move my units up to half their movement, changing the glasses back. I'm no longer reading from a piece of cardboard. Okay, and we know this enemy up here has been is ops completed, and hopefully in the deck here we know my formation card hasn't come out yet, and there is still the end ops. Now, if the end ops comes out, this turn will finish. My card comes out, that means I will get another activation, and could probably be within spitting distance of these guys in the village. So that's a little bit of a risk. Do I bundle up there using half movement? So moving on the road, I'll be 1, 2. The road negates the going up the hill. He says partially confidently. I maybe need to check that. Let's have a look. So I've got some charts on here. Play array chart. Nothing about roads on that one. That one. There we go, road. When crossing a road hex side, the cost of terrain of the hex entered becomes 1, including hill hexes. Okay. So yeah, so I could move with the BMP 1, 2, 3 to P10. Then I'm on the same height level as this infantry here, but because they're ops complete, they can't opportunity fire. No one else can see me. And then if that formation card comes out, I can activate again. I could move on to and then enter their actual hex, and they still can't do anything. They've been distracted, whatever that cross means. Something's happened that their operations are done for the turn. So is it worth the risk? Because if the turn ends and all those cards get shuffled, and we do know that there's 2 enemy cards in there for my 1, and I would be in range of their Milan. So it is a gamble. I think it's worth it. I'm going to send 1 up there. So I've got half movement, and we know that is 3. Okay, so can I be seen in that hex by these boys? I can. Okay, so now we determine if they actually fire. So the range tells me on there is 8 hexes. So I'm at long range for that missile. Okay, because the range, if you look at the missile, is 744. So it's at its long range in this, or extended range. So I again look at draw a card. I look at it, and there is no long range, it's blank. So therefore it does not fire. It does not react to that move of mine. Now, if I was a player and I was playing the Germans, I probably would have fired there. But the AI plays its own game. It says don't always counter judge what the AI does. Let it play its own game as much as possible, which I will. In this case, got away with that. So that's 1 movement point, 2, 3 onto the hill there. Okay. I can't fire, even though I only moved half movement, because they haven't got advanced fire capability. I'm not like the Leopard tank there, which has got that little orange triangle, which means it's got advanced sights and such forth that allows it to shoot very effectively. Okay, So do I risk that R9 again? Now I know there's definitely a line of sight between that and the I don't think I will. So this unit here will move 2 into the woods, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. T62s, I'm going to keep those in reserve. You know, they're effectively tin cans at the present moment. And I'd like to keep those back until I've weakened down these boys and got my infantry in and amongst them. So that will be my little bonus movement. Thank you very much to the Battlefield Friction card. Okay, so is this the end of turns, or do I get to operate? Drum roll. Yeah, end of operations. That is unfortunate. So therefore, if I draw the next card, it'll be the last card. It's my actual formation, which didn't get to activate. Okay, so there is a mechanism in this game to ensure that my formation will definitely activate next turn. Okay, because I can't go 2 turns without them activating. And the way that's done, put that back in, one of these end of operation cards is placed to the side, and I then place my HQ on it. Okay, so that's a problem with the program there. Let's get that back up. Right, I'll just stick that actually onto the other screen. I place the HQ on the end of operations card. Bring that back up so you can see it. Okay, and then put everything else back in the deck there. Okay, so as there's now only one end of operations in that formation deck, when the game turn can't end until my card definitely comes out. At that point, the second end of operations card goes back into the formation deck, possibly again in the turn. Okay. At this point, we have a cleanup phase, so all ops completed markers are now removed. Everyone's fresh. The electronic warfare marker stays on there until that command is activated again, and that electronic warfare then could deteriorate. On reflection, I think there might have been a chance it deteriorated because we had the electronic warfare card, then we had that formation come out. Let me just check the ruling on that. I should have taken a morale check on that HQ to determine if that EW marker goes into the reducing effect. Let me do a morale check. The morale is 7. I should remember it from that card. Yes, so that EW marker is actually now on its reducing side. So what will happen now is the next time this formation is activated, that EU marker is removed. If the EW card comes out first, again, we then roll to determine who is affected by the electronic warfare. So that was a slight error mistake there, but corrected before the end of the turn. Everyone's good to go. I'm now a little bit worried by this Milan sitting with a nice line of sight on my BMP. So hopefully I'll be able to go first, dismount my infantry, fire on them, do something. And I've also now, because we are starting turn 2, I have off-board artillery available. So hopefully I will go before they do. I move the turn marker to turn 2, so we're ready. And I will call that an evening. Thank you for watching the video. And I will then do turn 2 in the next one. Bye-bye.